All right. Welcome everyone to the Fail Breakdown channel. It's Friday, the 16th of January 2026. Got a special guest with us today here by the name of Bojangle. So welcome to him. Thank you for joining us. And I am MW as well as usual. So today we're going to be talking about a couple of different fail breakdowns, a couple of different choices really, and why you might want to choose one versus the other. So we had a few different executions between the three of us here around firstly the 69.69 level and then the 69.75 slash 77 level. So that's what we're going to be going through. As always, we're trying to follow Adam Mancini's method as best we can, but we're not experts by any means. So just be aware that we're just doing our best to relay what we've learned from him, but always defer back to his newsletter for the full and true breakdown. With that said, let's get into it. So I'm just going to drag in the chart here. We got the 4 hour on the left and the 15-minute on the right. Not going to touch too much on the 4 hour at all and really just focus on the key levels. So obviously it's OPEX day. We started out the day in the pre-market with quite a bit of chop, pushed up, and as we discussed in the pre-market live stream this morning, the expectation was we would probably come down and touch the settlement from yesterday, the closing price from yesterday, which we did, and we got a nice burst of volatility around that. And then it was a question of what was going to trigger. Let me just go down to slightly lower time frames so we can see some of the action. We got a very small flush of 77 initially, a pop back up, and then I was waiting to see if we were going to get a trigger on that one, but we never did, at least as far as I was concerned. And so we failed below and then transitioned down to the 69.69 level. So going to bring in the other chart here because I think it kind of shows the sweeps a little bit more cleanly. I'm just showing the range chart here, just so you guys know. So let's talk maybe about the micro flush of 77. That's when I started watching. Were you guys alert at that time? So this was right around 10:20 when we got that one. Well, we got an initial like one tick flush,
Yeah.
popped up to 88, and then we got down to what was that 75 ish. Popped up a little bit lower. Were you guys stalking an entry there at all?
So I honestly, because I had my runner still underneath all that, I wasn't too interested in taking such a micro flush there. So I was kind of gonna let it work. And then also not only that, but like it also ran up in the blink of an eye up 10 points up to like 85. So I was just at that point, there was no acceptance. There was nothing really too interesting for me to take. So I was cool holding my runner unless we got a bit of a deeper sweep there.
Yeah. How about you, Bojangles? Were you watching that at all?
Same thing.
Yeah.
I was just holding that runner. The one tick is just not enough for me. And then that 10-point pop, it's just nothing I can do with that at that
Right.
moment.
So yeah, I was kind of the same. It did get me on alert though, because it triggered my alert. So this first pop up, nothing to do. When um, we dipped down to 74 there, so we got a little bit lower. I was waiting to see if we were going to hold above 82 for a few minutes. Um, kind of following the non-acceptance protocol. We never got that at all. So that would have been just drawing on the chart here, kind of holding up in the 84 region to look for a trade back to 93. But obviously that failed, retested the level, and then just broke through. And then when we were approaching 69 here, so right around, let's say 10:30-ish, when we're between the 77 and the 69 levels, my thought process there is then, hey, if we can recover 77 from here, that's a potential long. If we can hold 69 and recover 77, that would be my kind of first trade option. But if we fail 69, that's when I switch to thinking maybe take a trade around the 69 level. But I was still looking for 69 to hold at that point and then work our way back up to 77. We never got that. So then once we broke through 69, that's when my if then statement switched to the second option, especially once we got down to right around the 60 level. So a decent flush of that. Once we'd gotten into that sort of sweet spot of flush depth, around 10 points ish, that's when I was looking to re-engage at the 69 level. Um, and so that's what I decided to take. We came up here. My entry rating was I give myself a pretty low score on patience. For my entry here, I actually took it when we basically pushed straight up through it. I was I had kind of observed a little bit of it, type 1 acceptance here, but it was pretty minor. But we came up to about 67, dipped to about 64, and then pushed up through, which I thought the momentum there was pretty good. So I jumped in right around 70. I think the textbook entry would have been to wait for the type 2 acceptance that occurred around that level. We pushed up to maybe 74 ish, dipped back, came just below the level to maybe 68 or so, and could have taken the entry there. So I think that would have been the proper entry around that level, if I'm being perfectly
Mhm.
honest. So, I mean, I'm okay with my process, but I do think I rushed the entry there for sure.
Yep.
So, what did you guys do? How were you seeing this as we broke beneath 77, came into 69?
Yeah, so for me, I had the 69 obviously marked as well as the 75 of low that we had from yesterday afternoon. Because of just how tight the structure was between 69 and 75, I personally was cool waiting for 75 to clear the higher structure there before taking the long. So obviously, we had a nice sweep there of 68. And I also kind of liked a couple of acceptance metrics of 75. So around 1050, we hit 74, rejected back down to 68, and then got back above. And then we also had another little bit of quick rejection at 1056. We hit 76 or so, rejected back down to 71. So with those two kind of minor, 5 to 7 point rejections, I felt pretty good taking the long above 75. Um, you know, Obviously the 68 was already kind of active at that point, so that also kind of helped with some confluence. But usually I like to wait for the higher structure, especially if the margin in between the two is a little bit too fast, in my opinion, to trim. And we did kind of above 68 quite quickly into 75. So at that point, I just was like, I'm gonna wait for 75 to clear and take it from there. It is always interesting to me, though. Again, both are valid, but it is interesting sometimes of when you want to wait for higher structure and when you don't. I would say two factors today, especially, be one, we had a pretty deep sweep of 75, so you're already kind of 15 points off the lows coming into the higher structure. And then secondly, it being OPEX day. So, you probably don't want to long too much off the lows because you just don't know how much energy is going to be there for price to run. With that being said, I still took the higher entry, but those are just two reasons why, maybe in this example here, um, why Adam probably took the lower one, and maybe why that technically today on a daily today maybe is a little safer. Where usually I think the higher entry ends up being the safer option. So, that's kind of what I saw from my perspective. We also did put in some nice type two, I will say, of 75 at 11 o'clock, 11:05 ish,
Mm-hmm.
where we hit 81, came back, retested 75 from above, bounced up. So in hindsight, that was also some nice acceptance at 75 for those that, didn't feel comfortable taking an entry yet. There was another chance to long. So as always, I think, there's never any rush. You do get plenty of opportunities to enter if we're gonna, rally off a failed breakdown. So I think in this, you had a couple of, opportunities. Either you could enter at 68, like Tim mentioned down there. 75 really gave you two opportunities. You could have longed, around 1056. You could have longed at 1105, 1106. So, plenty of opportunities here to get in on a kind of back test again of hitting 93, which, might be a OPEX magnet here for us today.
So what was your entry time? Were you actually trading the 75 for your trigger, or did you wait for it to recover 77? Sorry, you may have said, but I
Yeah,
lost
so
hearing.
I took my entry above 77, obviously, just because there was that major. So 75 is the failed breakdown low. 77 is the major level, so I did take it just above 77. I think I got around 78 or so. But because obviously that major level being at 77, I didn't want to take a entry at 75 and then have that be potentially a wall there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just took it above 77 there.
So you got in. Did you get in right around 10 o'clock when it pushed through the first
Um,
time?
yeah, Eastern times.
Sorry,
I
11
got
o'clock.
in.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
keep
I
doing that.
got in at what was my entry time? 10:58.
Yeah. So when it pushed straight through.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
there's actually
after the
kind of
two
similar
rejections.
similar swings of acceptance. I mean, look, I'm on the 1 minute chart just so you guys know right
Yeah,
now,
this one
just so I
has
can
to
see it.
zoom in a little bit to see in hindsight.
Yeah. So we had this here at 69, and then at the 75 level push up. You kind of got a little bit of acceptance at both 75 and 77. Um, so there was that
Yeah.
option there. How about you?
Two different approaches today. I mean, honestly, this is like it's just like how my Pats and your Texans are playing this weekend, and we got two little different different entry options to play with. So me versus Tim today.
Yeah, should be a good one. Uh, I think
It
you're
was
going to
more
be.
so back to that analogy on the side of the Patriots today. I made a mistake, took it a little below. I took it actually at 75, around 1056 Eastern time. After I saw, like what Mayank said, two good swings of acceptance there, right around I think 1050. We saw a nice 6 point rejection of that 74 area. And then another nice rejection off 75, 76 exact for another like 4 or 5 point, 6 point rejection.
Hmm.
So after that, I was really eyeing an entry if we got above 75 again. In hindsight, definitely should have just waited for 77, which cleared in the next minute or two. So a little sloppy with the major above that easily slapped me back down. So wrote that down in my journal. Definitely wait if you got a major right above that significant low. Really no point in jumping in below it. Just get that added extra boost of confidence. Just letting that major clear.
Yeah.
Um, so those are really Mayank pretty much said most of what I saw too. So it's pretty much in parallel there. But yeah, my main takeaway is most like just next time, just let that 77 next major above clear, especially if you're within 2, 3 points. No real reason to take it below that major. It's kind of a little sloppy there on my end.
So I'm actually reading. Adam just responded to a tweet 2 minutes ago about someone asking him why he chose 69 versus 77. So interesting response. Which this might be a little contradictory, but he says he always prefers the lower one. In this case, as long as they're both quality significant lows. So both 69 and 77 were both quality significant lows here. So it's riskier entering after an already large rally occurred. The reason I say it's a little contradictory though is because I feel like he usually says the opposite. I usually feel like he says he waits for the higher one to enter because it's a little safer. So I mean, it's still, I think we come back to the fundamental question here of like, it is definitely interesting to see what is technically safer. Again, technically they're both valid, whether you enter at the lower or the higher. I guess it really depends up to your own personal preference and
Hmm.
maybe where you spot the acceptance.
So
But
maybe
yeah,
it's
interesting.
here. There's just, if you get in on 69, you can still get a reasonable trim up to 75, 77. Maybe in the when he's waiting for the upper level is when that is a bit more compressed if you've only got like 4 points between those two levels. But
Hmm.
here there's 8 points between the two majors at 69, 77. I don't know, I'm just speculating, but if he felt like he could get a trim into the 75, then maybe he was more willing. Um, and and then for me the main thing was with it being OPEX, not really expecting huge clean swings either way. I was kind of keen to get in at the lower level from my side. That was the main point.
Yeah, I think that definitely is a good reason. Just because it is OPEX and you don't want to be taking a long too much higher up off the lows on OPEX. But yeah, definitely interesting with the higher structure versus just taking the lower one. Again, I know there's definitely times for sure where we've discussed plenty of times and so has Adam of just wait for the higher structure. It's a bit safer. I think it's especially true when the two lows are really close together. So you might have a point here because it's 7, 8 points in between. You might be okay getting away with taking the lower one as a safer bet and then just trimming into the higher structure versus if it's a little bit tinier. Like I'm sure, Tim, let's say if it was like 4 points in between here, you might have probably waited right for the higher one.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I've learned that lesson many times. uh, for, cool, guys. Anything else you want to add to the discussion?
Nothing else I think on my side.
But man, it's been
Unless you
another.
want to touch real quickly on the 93 from last night. I believe we all executed that the same way.
Yeah, let's take a look at that. So, I think the interesting thing about this was, and we again touched on it in the pre-market, is that the acceptance for this trade started at 3 o'clock Eastern time yesterday afternoon, and Adam wrote that in his newsletter. So those are his words, not mine. But I was actually stalking an entry around the 93 level at that time, and it never triggered. But that whole little sequence in there still counts towards acceptance when we come back up. Uh, and so, yeah, I've got it on 5 minute chart here so we can just see it. But yeah, when we broke through the level, we dipped to kind of 85 ish, returned. This was yesterday afternoon, and then sold off to the next major level down, held, chopped around, and then off the open, started working our way back up. Got up here to about 92 ish, dipped back to 87, 5 points. So, and per Adam's plan, this was the add on strength level. Um, but he noted ideally wait for another dip. The only question in my mind was this dip sufficient? But seeing us run back from 87 and a half back up and then put in another little dip here where we poked through, dipped back down to probably 88. Sorry, I can't draw on the screen and get the cursor up at the same time, but and then pushed up through, and then on this push up through, there was relatively good momentum on it, so I got in after a few minutes in this region here, and it was a fairly straightforward evening fail breakdown. So, um, what did you guys see on that one?
Yeah, for me, it was quite literally the 8 p.m. to 8:30 acceptance there where we hit 94, rejected down to
Mm-hmm.
88 by 6 points, and then got back above. So once I saw that and we held for a couple minutes, I felt fine taking the long. Obviously, just a little smaller size, just given the time of day and the volatility. I didn't want to be, full size heading into 9 p.m. Eastern. But yeah, besides that, solid. I mean, pretty straightforward trade there with that acceptance.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if you guys, I trip myself up on the definitions sometimes, but this was actually just a textbook fail breakdown, really. I mean,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
wasn't quick and clean, but we had the significant low from the morning session that we flushed and lost in the afternoon session, and then just worked our way steadily, slowly back up, um, but slowly but methodically, and just came straight back up through it. So fairly textbook, but you got to adapt a little bit to the slower volatility in the slower price action in the evening session for sure. It can make those a bit harder to read. So all of your timings, you got to kind of double, triple them as far as waiting for how long you want to see it hold above the level.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. With
Alrighty.
with that, I think I'll leave you there. I will tag on my screen recording from the 69 failed breakdown at the end if anyone's interested to watch that. Again, it's not particularly exciting, and it's rather long-winded, of course, but you can see kind of my thought process there as we were losing the 77 level in real time, initially stalking that entry and then transitioning down to the 69 level. So I kind of talked through that in real time. But with that, I think that's been a pretty generous OPEX day. So I mean, the last four in a row have been quite kind to us, I would say. So we'll see what the next one brings. But long weekend, great way to go into the weekend on overall. I think it's been a pretty good week. So with that, any closing comments from you guys?
Yeah, no, I think I agree. Good week. I mean, quite literally the only thing that I think that tripped us up this week was the Wednesday morning 69.77. Was it entry? Was it not? We'll never know. But
Yep.
I think that was the only thing that really tripped us up. Besides that, everything this week seemed pretty good. That was the only loss for me this week, so everything else was pretty good.
Hey, well, you got your revenge today at the 77, so yeah.
Yeah.
Funny, it just goes to show, you don't need to worry about missing a trade because these levels come back round again more often than not. So if you think you have missed it one, just sit tight, be patient, wait for the steps of the process to reveal themselves at the next level, and then react when they do. So, all right, guys, thanks Bojangles for joining us. That added a little extra color. Appreciate that, and we'll catch you guys in the Discord next time. All right, bye for now. Okay, just watching here to see if we get an entry a bit late starting the trade. Screen record here. Currently, well, flat on the day, still holding a runner from 37 below. Um, was watching the 69.77 level and then the lows at 75. We've had a one tick sweep of that so far, down to 74.50. I mean, the actual low's 74.75, so we had a one tick sweep of it. I was watching to see if we were going to hold a few points above in this region first. We didn't, or at least we haven't. We're dipping back down to it. We did get a huge spike of volume when we dipped through here. I was watching it on the speed of the tape here, so and a good amount of negative delta that got absorbed and lifted us back up. So I'm just going to be interested to watch what happens when we get back down here again. But ideally, actually, let me get the pen. So I kind of looked away for a moment there. It looks like we were getting a bit of a bounce at this level, but we really want to see it flush a bit deeper than this. Yeah, it would be nice if we could test down to 69 or a little bit above and then come back up with some momentum. but we are getting kind of the type 2 acceptance here. So probably what I'm going to do with this one is apply the non-acceptance protocol if this bounce is going to hold, to see if it holds above 82 for a few minutes. If we get back up there, it is OPEX, we are expecting everything to be very trappy. But right now the problem or the turn off is just the flush has been so minor. So I'd really like to see it collapse a bit deeper first. Okay, I'm gonna kind of do what I did yesterday, just pause the video when not much is happening, and then restart when there's something to add, save me editing it later. So it looks like we're just dipping a little bit, getting some good speed across the tape here. Levels above 82, 86 and 93. So if we were applying non-acceptance protocol, you'd be getting in right around the 82 level, looking for 86, which is actually right where we've rejected from on this high. So that would be the first target. Hopefully we can get that deeper flush here, and then maybe get it a little bit closer to the level at 77. I'm just wary of the day though. So it's OPEX. We've got a 3-day weekend ahead of us. We've been repeatedly rejecting off the highs up above 7,000. And these are all the higher levels from the trade plan. So, you know, the lower quality ones. We have had a 30-point flush down into this now from the overnight high. So that helps improve the quality of these levels with a, you know, this low has now ran up 30 plus points, and we're looking to flush and reclaim it. All right, it's 10:31. I'm going to go back on pause. Just restarted the video here at 10:33, just to kind of show the increased volume here. We were up at 1600 with fairly substantial selling pressure coming in as well. What we're getting is the nice flush. So this is what we want, proper flush. None of this micro flush business. So coming into the 69 level here, so let's see if we get some sort of a reaction. And so there's options at this point to either kind of hold the 69 and recover 75, 77, or if we flush 69, look for a sweep and a recovery of that level. The 69 is obviously it's been a major level for most of the week, but we had a significant low there at 2 a.m. on, sorry, Eastern time, 3 a.m. on Thursday morning, where we dipped. We didn't dip that far into it, maybe 12 points into it, and then rallied up to the high yesterday. Okay, I'm going to put it back on pause. Alright, it's about 10:39. Still getting some pretty good volume here with some high delta spikes, so selling pressure is still there as we break through 69. We've gotten down to, what's that low? 65.25. So just about 4 points beneath the level at 69 here. Back on pause here. Okay, recording's back on. It's now 10:44, 10:45 almost. So we've cut quite deeply below the 69 level, which is the bull bear line. I've just changed that to red. We've cut through that by 9 points ish. So obviously now the trade at 77, 75 is off. And then so in terms of kind of active if then statements, got, you know, if we can test up to 69, maybe dip and recover again, that's a potential long. If we test up, dip down, be looking for the next level down, which is 69.56. So with the 56, looking for that 56 to flush, maybe hold 50 and recover it there. So a couple of different ways of playing that, but really watching this 59 level right now is option 1. Option 2 is fade, flush, and recover. Sorry, that's terrible arrow drawing, but you get the idea. Okay, I'm going to put it back on pause here. Okay, watching again here at 69. Did get a little bit of a dip there. It was hard to see. Kind of happened in real time. Tested 60, well, we got to about 67 and dipped back to 63. So tiny bit of acceptance. Kind of got to be quick in, quick out on a day like today. So I think there is the option to take here. I'm going to try this. Kind of happened when I was off record. What happened, we came up, tested, dipped, and then pushed back up. So I thought we could take that entry there. To get back to that 75, 77 level. I just got to 74 and then dipped. I was looking to get in quite aggressively on this one just because of the day and not really expecting moves to get too much follow through, so I wanted to get in pretty tight to the level on that first little whiff of type 1 acceptance. Maybe we're getting a type 2 acceptance bounce here, just about held 69 and coming back up. Okay, I took my first target there at 76.50. So that's 71 to 76.50. Got runner left. Not super happy about my entry. Premature. I guess I was trying to you just take one of those kind of high momentum entries with a tiny bit of acceptance there, but probably should have been more patient on that one. Some nice type 2 acceptance of it when we got this micro dip under the level again down to 77.5. The right entry I think would have been off of that and then coming back up, entering at 70. So good result. Not super happy with my entry. Perhaps impatient on that one, but only had a couple of points of drawdown. Not a major deal. Just not 100% on my execution there. Anyway, we'll see how far this one goes. It's OPEX, so not expecting much. May get back to 93. I don't know, we'll see. But obviously we're triggering another trade in here. We've had the proper flush of 70, 75, 77 here. So if you didn't take this entry, there's the option to get in at 75 here. I mean, the problem with that for me is that you're asking it to run now. What's that, from 60 up to 77-ish just to get you the entry, 17 points. Then another, 5, 7, whatever point, whatever your next target up. I think 80, what were we looking at before? 85 was the level, so tricky. You're asking for it to come up quite a bit on on a normal day. Fine. OPEX, maybe that's a bit more challenging. Anyway, that's a wrap for this one. I'll catch you guys in the Discord. It's a long weekend, so not much happening on Monday, but it will be around for Sunday evening. All right, we'll call it there.